truth and the light. We live by faith and not by sight. For you, we're living on for you. You are the way, the truth and the light. We live by faith and not by sight. For you, we're living on for you. You are the way, the truth and the light. We live by faith and not by sight. For you, we're living on for you. You are the way, yeah, you are the way, the truth and the light. We live by faith and not by sight. For you, we're living on for you. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I can live for. Wait, Jesus, you're the only one that I can live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I can live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I can live for. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. See you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour down your power and love as we sing holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I wanna see you. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I wanna see you. Open the eyes of my heart. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. times I fell, still your mercy remains. Should I stumble again, till I'm caught in your grace everlasting. Your light will shine when all else fades, never ending. Your glory goes beyond all faith. You will above all else, my purpose remains. The art of losing myself in bringing you praise everlasting. Your light will shine when all else fades, never ending. Your glory goes beyond all faith. Yeah, and my heart and my soul, I give you control. Consume me from the inside out, Lord. Let justice and praise become my embrace, to love you from the inside out, everlasting. Your light will shine when all else fades, never ending. Your glory goes beyond all fame, and the pride of my heart is to bring you praise from the inside out of my soul. Cries out everlasting. Your light will shine when all else fades, never ending. Your glory goes beyond all fame, and the cry of my heart is to bring you praise from the inside out of my soul. Cries out from the inside out of my soul. Cries out from the inside out my soul. Cries out from the inside out my soul. Cries out. Everlasting, your light will shine when all else fades, never ending. Your glory goes beyond all fame, and the cry of my heart is to bring you praise from the inside out of my soul. Cries out from the inside out my soul. Cries out from the inside out my soul. Cries out.
Welcome to our service. We're so glad you have connected with us today. And if this is your first time, we certainly hope it's not your last. And today I want to just start a new series that is going to go into the next year. This is the first part of the three-part series that we have started, and we have called it Better for 2021. So we believe that because of what we went through, or we've been going through this year, we all can be better next year. So, and I know for sure that we're all ready to go into 2000. We're all ready to go into 2021. And the reality is because we think that the moment that the time changes, the moment that the clock changes, everything that we've been through in this year is actually going to stay behind. So we are looking forward to look backward into this year. And reality is that if we don't learn for what we've been through this year, we probably won't be better for next year. So I want to challenge you this next 3 Sundays and today to take a look and pause and think and analyze and expect. Someone said that if you don't really analyze the experience that you lived, you really are not taking the best. You're not actually using your experience the best. So analyze experience was actually can bring change. So we need to take a pause and ask what we learned during this year that we can carry forward into next year. What we can carry forward that will make us better. Because there's some things that happen this year that will definitely, after we take into consideration, we're going to learn. And we all learned one important thing this year. One thing, if you didn't learn anything, we all learned that the most important thing now and this year was toilet paper. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but for some reason, everybody gave so much attention to it. But I believe there's more to it that we learned. And seriously, we need to start pausing now and see, what did I learn when I went through this crisis? What did I learn how this crisis, this pandemic actually found me? And what did I learn that I can carry forward? And specifically, how can I be better for 2021? If the same thing were to happen, how can it find me better? How can I be better prepared? And I believe that what we went through can be a perfect teacher, a perfect guide to teach us how we can become better in every area going into 2029. If we don't stop and ask, we will forget, which will be a shame. Because if you went through some stuff, if you went through some pain, some sickness, some lack of financially lackness, if you went through something that I believe the entire world was actually going through the same thing, if you don't believe and you don't learn from it, then this phrase will apply to you. Pain without gain is a shame. Pain without gain. If you went through some pain, if you lost someone you loved, if you went through some struggle, or if you got sick or someone that you love got sick, if you went through something and you went through uncertainty and you didn't learn, basically pain without gain is a shame. So it will be a shame if whatever you went through, you don't stop and think. If you don't stop and ask yourself, and you will forget, that will be very shameful. And to help us remind us about this topic, there's a book. It's called "The Problem of Pain," written by C.S. Lewis. And in his book, he shares the experience that we can all identify, because the moment we're going through something, the moment we're going through a situation that is a crisis, we right away fall into certain habits. We change the way we act, the way we react. Pain has a way to change us the way we function that nothing else does. So C.S. Lewis shares something that I would like to bring up that all of us can identify. And he goes and say, my own experience is something like this. I am progressing along the path of life in my ordinary, contentedly fallen and godless condition. And he goes on and say, absorbed in a merry meeting with my friends for the moral of a bit of work that tickles my vanity, when suddenly a stab of abdominal pain that threatens serious disease. Basically, so what he's saying, I'm living my life like while you were probably back in February in 2020, you were just doing whatever it is that you do, just thinking that the whole world, like me, I was preparing a whole year. Everything was planned out in a certain way. I was just focused, passionate about it. All of a sudden, on March 16, the mayor announces that the whole city has to go and shut down. So a lot of things have started changing. The same way he says, sometimes I'm just being myself with my friends, and right away, an abdominal pain that threatens a serious disease. So right away, it's like when we get a pain or something, we right away changes the way we behave. He goes and adds and says, or a headline in the newspaper, like what we read before, what we just went through. In the newspaper that threatens us all with destruction, sends this whole pack of cards tumbling down. And this is actually what you went through, because that's exactly what I went through when everything was fading, everything was looking very bad, and the uncertainty was rising, and there was more questions than answered. We all felt this way, that everything that we once knew, whatever we call normal, was no longer going to be. And we didn't know if we were going to make it or if we were going to get sick. And right away, what it seems to be a normal headache, we right away thought we had been infected with the virus that is still going around. And everything that you have prepared and secured, like Lewis says, started tumbling down. And then he goes and adds, and he says, at first, I am overwhelmed. Like all of us, when this happens, we get overwhelmed. And all my little happiness look like broken toys. All your plans, your family, everything that you once experienced, it start looking weird. And you start not thinking the same. Everything doesn't seem clear after you are threatened with something, with a disease, with a sickness, with a sick relative, or you think you have something, or cancer is knocking on your door. Everything that seems to be good in your life start looking, he says, like broken toys. And then he goes and adds, and he said, then slowly and rectangularly, bit by bit, I try to bring myself into the frame of mind that I should be at all times. This is important, because whenever life changes and our situation changes, whenever the life hits unexpectedly, right away we start doing some changes. For example, if you get diagnosed that you have diabetes, if you get diagnosed that you have high blood pressure, right away you start doing changes in your mind and your habit, because now you have a problem present. There's pain lurking around your house, around your life. And right now he says, when I see that this is happening, when something unexpected happens in my life, right away I start to we intentionally try to become as careful as we should always has been. And he said, I try to bring myself and the frame of mind and the frame of habit and the thought and the cautious mindset that I should have been at all times. I know that happens to you, because you know what? It happens to me. And then he says, and perhaps by God's grace, I succeed for a day or two. This is fun. This is kind of funny, but it's so true. You right away, when the doctor says something or when the news says something, you right away start thinking and behaving differently. And you start praying to God if you're a person of faith. You start asking God. You haven't been talking to God in years and months. And the moment that you feel that something really bad is threatening you, that is going to happen right away, you start talking to him by a day or two. And become a creature consciously dependent on God and drawing its strength from the right source. Basically, right away when my situation changes, I usually turn to God right away. So he goes and says for a day or two, and then he adds, but the moment the threat is withdrawn, and we all know, the moment that pain goes away, the moment that I didn't get I didn't get sick, the moment that I didn't lose the house, the moment that I didn't really have to go into bankruptcy, the moment that the threat, the moment that whatever is taking away your joy, the whatever is creating and bringing fear, the moment that it leaves, you and I know what happens next. You and I know how you behave the moment that you lose the fear. We know what comes next because we've been there. We probably are there now. Maybe your marriage, it's in a rough path right now because of what you went through this past month. So you started making some changes into your life. You started coming home earlier, or not even coming home early. You have nowhere to go. You started doing things differently, sending notes because you thought you were threatened that the marriage might finish or something went wrong. And the moment that everything goes back to what you want it to be, you go back to the old ways. We change our behavior. Maybe you are, or this is maybe a single woman out there that you thought that you were pregnant, that you made a mistake, and now you changed the entire thing, but then you saw the results and you're not pregnant. You say, you know what? You thought you were, you say, I'm not going to do this again. I'm going to be more careful. And the moment you realize that you're not pregnant, you go back to your old ways, your old behaviors, and you just totally change. You behave differently because you thought you were in trouble. And the moment that the threat is withdrawn, you go back to your old self. You behave yourself for a while. But once the threat was withdrawn, you drifted back into your previous behavior. We've all been there. We all go through that. Maybe you had a scary physical. You went to the doctor, and the doctor said, you know what, you have to do some changes. Otherwise, this is going to happen. And you made the changes, and you went to exercise. You signed up in the gym for a month or two. But when you began to feel better, and the threat was withdrawn, you drifted back into your normal self, into your old behavior. And I ask, what's wrong with us? What is it that when we don't feel like something bad is going to happen, we just fall back into the normal? We just forget what to do or to do the right thing. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we go we go to the brink, we go to the edge of the disaster? We need to be in the edge of the disaster in order to make changes. We know all along what we needed to do, but we don't do it. And one thing is almost at the edge of something worse happening, then we want to change. But C.S. Lewis continues, and he goes and says, and he shares, and he says, my whole nature lives back into the toys. Basically, we just go back to pay attention to what we were paying attention before, and then say, God has had me for 48 hours, and then only by a dint of taking everything else away from me. Basically, when everything that I have is threatened, I change my entire self. But when I forget about that threat, that problem, I go back to my own self. And then he says, let him but sheathe that sword for a moment. Basically, let that pain go away for a moment. And you know what happens? In order for us to gain from our pain, we'll have to be intentional. This is why I want to poke and prod a bit today. This is why I want to poke into this situation. And I want to actually poke you right now so you can understand that pain sometimes has a way to teaching us some stuff. But if we forget about the pain, then we'll have no gain. And like I said, it's a shame when you go through some pain, but you don't gain anything. So to help us avoid this, I want to just tell you, and I'm finished sharing what Lewis says, and this is what he said. He says, and we behave like a puppet, he says. When the pain is removed and we forget about it, we behave like a puppet when the hated bath is over. So you probably been there, you had a puppet before. So you know what a little puppet does when they finish taking a bath? He goes and says, I shake myself as dry as I can and raise up to require my comfortable dirtiness. Basically, we go to whatever caused the problem. We behave the same way. And if not in the nearest manure heap, at the least in the nearest flower bed. That's literally right there, human nature being described. Human nature, being human, we return to the bad habit that once the pain was associated with, and then once the pain is present, the habits are gone, but we go back to the normal. We go back to the same thing that creates the same problem. But what about aspiring to normal? What about when you aspire for things to go back the way they were? What about if that normal that you were was actually not the best version, that you could actually be better? How about if you can say, you know what, I don't want to go back to the normal of 2020. I want 2021 to find me better. I want to be better in case I go through another crisis, in case I get sick, in case there's another lockdown, in case the world changes tomorrow. I want this situation to find me better. And we believe here that it's possible to become better, but we need to analyze, we need to go back and think what we learn now, how we were when this started, and so we can become better for the next year. How can I be better for 2021? How can I be better? We should at least and we have been taught before by others that we shouldn't let good things go to waste. That's another. Somebody have told you that before. Don't let things go to waste. But we really believe that we shouldn't let bad things go to waste either. So it is not too soon to begin the discussion. Now is the time for us to take an inventory and ask what I have been doing that almost led to my undoing. I think it's time for us to start talking about this and think about how we were, what we were doing that almost found us and led to our undoing, to our ruins. What were we doing that we should be doing differently? Or a better question should be, what should I begin doing that I should have been doing all along? Imagine that there's something that you were doing that didn't help you when you were going through the crisis, or now that you're still going through the crisis. Ask yourself, what is it that I was doing? I was being careless in what area of my life that if I was different, the story would be the same. And then ask yourself the second question, what should I begin doing now that I should have been doing all along? Today, I want to discuss in the next couple of minutes about 3 areas that I would like to get you thinking. It may feel too soon to talk about them, but I believe that it's the best time to talk about them because we're going into a new year. And maybe we might go through other crises in life, and maybe life tomorrow will change. But no matter what, I would like you to be ready for it. I would like you to be better for them. So basically, we gain most perspective when the pressure is on. So now that we're going through a year of pressure, the perspective have changed. So let's talk about this thing. So next week as well, I'm going to talk about a superpower that is a special ability that empowers you to be better for anything that you face in life. But for now, let's begin here. Let's talk about these 3 areas, starting with the first one. How can you be better for 2021 financially? And if you think about what you went through and how this crisis found you, you have been doing, what were you doing financially that almost led to your undoing? What financial habit caught up with you during this season? If you were going through COVID, and what happened if you would have behaved differently financially? What was the problem? What can you, and then if you didn't like the way the pandemic or the crisis found you, then you should ask this question: what do you wish you've been doing financially? I'm sure a lot of you might be saying, I wish I would have been saving and have enough money that I didn't go through so much uncertainty and I would have to be waiting depending on the government help because I was okay. Because the problem is that a lot of us didn't know that was going to happen. Imagine if you would have been told that you were going to be in lockdown for 6 months, for 3 months, 4 months, you would have prepared yourself differently. So the same thing. What can you do now that can make you and be ready for anything that might happen in next year? It is time for us to face up. And the reality is that there's 2 realities that brought us financially into a situation. And it's that nobody probably ever told you this, but I'm going to tell you this. It says, I want this is the reality about financially. I want is better than I owe. A lot of us think that we want to, we want to get into I owe, and because we're trying to get what I want. But it's better to keep telling yourself, I want something, but I don't get it because I don't want to get myself into debt. And this is a reality. I want is better than I owe. It's better to say, I want something, than to say, I owe something. It's better to stay in that stage of wanting instead of being in debt. It's better to go without things you don't need than to owe on things that you don't need. I'm going to repeat that again because that's important. It's better to go without things you don't need than to owe on things you don't need. It's better to be without them. Because isn't that has happened to you that you got the stuff you wanted, but now you don't need the stuff that you thought you needed, but now you owe them. That car, that clothes, that box, that brown box that came from, that store that you order every week, and now you bought the stuff that you thought you needed, but you don't want them, but you have to use your credit card to get them. So now you owe money because you were a slave of what you wanted. But it's better to say I want than to say I owe. The tension of saying I owe is worse than the tension of saying I want. Secondly, I want to share with you that our financial hole is due in part to a lack of self-control. A financial hole is due in part to a lack of self-control. You might be taught this in this crisis. You might be, if only I had more money. You might have probably told yourself, if only I had more money saved when the crisis came, if only I had more money in the bank, if only I didn't spend my money doing that, I would have been in a better shape. If only I had more money. Maybe you were thinking that now. I wish I had saved more money and exercised more self-control. And let me tell you one thing. Now is the time to learn this lesson, so you will be ready for the future. The author of Proverbs says something that I want to share with you. The author of Proverbs is Solomon, and he says something that I want to share with you that perhaps is something that we all need to work on and we all need to know. Solomon says, like a city whose walls are broken, though is a person who lacks self-control. Like a city whose walls are broken, though it's a person that lacks self-control. Basically, for us, this probably doesn't make a lot of sense. But for them, when they read this, and back then, the cities were protected with walls. And a city without walls was a city that didn't have security, didn't have peace, didn't have prosperity. So security, peace, and prosperity are represented by the city walls. When they are broken, people in the city lose their safety and their autonomy. Also, the lack of self-control leads to a loss of control. So I'm going to repeat that again. The lack of self-control leads to a loss of control. So whenever your self-control is lost, it's like your walls are broken. You are vulnerable. Anything can happen. There's no security. There's no prosperity. There's no autonomy. That means you cannot do nothing you want because you lost control by getting whatever you wanted. And basically, that's what happens with a lot of people. You lost the control, and you went through it. Now you in a hole financially because you didn't control yourself yesterday. But what can you do better now that can prepare you for anything in 2021? You may have been read or been advised or heard before about having at least 3 to 6 months of savings. It's a good idea. You probably heard that before, that having 3 to 6 months of saving, it's a good Imagine you were able to have 3 to 6 months of saving when the crisis started. Imagine what could be different if you go into next year with this. So decide today to start building your financial resources. And so asking yourself this way, how can you be better for 2021 for it financially? And before I go out of this topic, I want to leave you with 3 recommendations. Save more, spend less, get out, or stay out of debt. Save more, spend less, get out, or stay out of debt. And I can assure you that you will be better for 2021 doing this. You'll be better. And if this isn't, and this is something that might sound too hard right now, but if this season has hit you hard financially, don't blame the virus, don't blame your boss or the economy. Now is the time to make decisions so you will never have to face this situation unprepared again. Take responsibility for your finances, exercise self-control, and prepare for the future. Take notes, make a plan, and decide to be better for next year. And how can you be better? How can you be better? Save more, spend less, and stay or get out or stay out of debt. And the other thing that another area that I would like to also The other area that I would like to talk about before I go is how can you be better for 2021 relationally? How can you be better for it relationally? And you know, and your experience relationally, what do you want to carry out in your future? I think we all experience the value of friendship in this season. And the season of the pandemic, I remember calling a couple of friends or texting them what they were doing. They say, you know what, I cannot wait for all this to be over so I can hug people, so I can actually be around people, because during this crisis, we needed each other more than ever. So in this crisis, what happened to your relationship? Would you like to have more friends if you go through another crisis than what you had in 2020? Would you like to have better relationship or better friendship into next year? Maybe you have discovered the unaddressed cracks in your marriage and or with your kids, or things that you were ignored in your relationship during this time, so much time together at home. Maybe you discover and you experience a lack of common ground with your kids, and you realize that you were not as close as you thought you were with people, because you know what this quarantine did? This quarantine has highlighted the good and not so good relationally. We all have seen in areas when we thought we were doing good, and we're not doing as good as we thought. So one of these days, full transparency, my wife tells me, you know what, we've been home so much, but that doesn't mean we have been spending quality time as we probably think. And the excuse is not that there's a lot of work to do, because we're not working. So technically this, and we can realize and see this very clear because we went through this crisis. So what can you do that can make you better next year because of what you went through this year? COVID-19 may serve as a relational wake-up call if you choose to pay attention to the tension. So wake up if there's any cracks in your relationship. Rushing back to normal only ensures the cracks will stay hidden. So basically, don't just try to rush back to your normal self, to your old self. See in your relationship what problems you need to fix. Fix them before you point fingers, before you say, no, I'm not the problem, before you try to bring somebody else and tell that there's their problem. Take a close look into your relationship, into yourself, and own your slice of the conflict pie. Own it. Own the part that it's your responsibility. Get right. Get this right. Do this right. And your COVID story may be different. Your COVID story might be, it was a catalyst to save our marriage. Your COVID story might be, you know what, I went through COVID, I went through this situation, but it just got me closer to my kids. It just got me closer to my marriage. Pay attention to the tension, and you will be able to say it forced her to face to face, to talk about stuff that we have neglected. Relationally speaking, all the pain with no gain will be a shame. If you don't realize, if you don't face, and if you don't learn from what you went through relationally, and you don't make better relationally, it will be a shame. And the last area that I want you to think about going into next year, just taking a look at the story or whatever you've been through this year, is how can you be better for next year personally? How can you be better personally? Because how are you doing internally? How does this crisis have affected you internally? Because in reality is that we all went through a lot of stuff. We went through some emotional roller coaster. But how this crisis can help you personally? Do you find yourself asking questions you never asked before? If you're not particularly a religious person, let me ask you this question. Do you find yourself praying for the first time in a long time? A lot of people, we notice at church in the statistic of the sermons and everything, how in the first months of this crisis, they went high. Everybody was connected. Everybody wanted prayer. But the moment things started going back to normal, you started seeing the declining of people searching and looking for prayer. So maybe you should stop that and make prayer part of your daily life, because that will for sure get you better and ready for next year, and it will be better. And then I'm going to ask you, did you discover your faith was more fragile than you imagined? And I'm sure a lot of us can relate. We realize we found ourselves asking questions we never thought. How did you say, where is God? Maybe some of you say, well, how could you do this? How could you let this happen? A lot of people went through so many stuff, and they realized that their faith wasn't as tough as they thought it was. Regardless of which side of the faith aisle you're on, pay attention to the tension. It could lead you somewhere good and maybe somewhere better. So let's make sure that we all better for next year, asking ourselves, how can I be better for it financially? How can I be better for next year relationally? How can I be better for it personally? What did you learn this year that can make you better for next year? And what habits do you need to change that can prepare you for any crisis? Because remember, pain without gain is a shame. So let's face and embrace the lessons of this season, whatever we learned this year, and questions that has surfaced. Let's all decide to be better for 2021. Why don't we make that decision and let whatever we learn this year make us better by changing our behavior. Let's not behave like the puppy when the hated bath was over. Let's not go back into our old self. Let's not go back into the old habits that led us to an unprepared life. So let's not race off to the old normal, the nearest manure heap or flower bed. Let's not forget what we've learned or perspective that we gain. I have suggestion to help you. Since it's so easy to forget, I want to give you a suggestion so you can remember what you went through. That might be something that can teach you and make you better for next year. Create something. Create a reminder. Find an object or someone that can remind you what you went through this year, so you can make you and help you get better for next year. In our case, we went through a lot of situations, but in the midst of the situation, we had our second baby. And what I do to remember the moments and the uncertainty and the situations that we went through, sometimes I call that baby, my second daughter, Abigail, I call her the pandemic baby. Because you need to find something that can remind you so you don't forget, and you do what you need to do to make you or get you ready and not fall back into the old habits that you had. Find an object, a picture, create something that reminds you of the season and what you experienced, so you can carry it forward from it. Put it somewhere permanent where you will see it often. Maybe it will be a reminder to slow down, to spend less, to reorganize yourself, to know who's most important in your life and what's priority in your life. Perhaps you will be reminded that you have more in common with other people than you thought. Let it remind you to write a better story going forward. We will have a story. We will have a story to tell. This week, take some time to answer two questions. To answer this question: how I will be better for 2021. Next week, I'm going to talk about the superpower you have to make sure that everything that comes your way, it makes you better. So don't miss next week. And I'll see you right here at El Camino. And I hope you have a great rest of the week.